Although tornadoes are not common in Connecticut, they do occasionally erupt and cause severe damage and disruption to a localized area. The tornado of October 3, 1979, formed near the Farmington River and traveled north along Connecticut Route 75 in Windsor and Windsor Locks, Connecticut. The twister killed 3 people, completely destroyed 64 houses and structures, and caused over $400 million in damage. These 2 scrapbook pages, featuring clippings from the Hartford Courant, convey the degree to which the tornado took everyone by surprise, including weather forecasters. The first page shows the expected forecast for the day, which the banner on the title page declared would be rainy and mild. The second page shows the path of the tornado and includes an article about how the funnel formed so close to the weather forecasting station that the National Weather Service did not recognize the tornado or issue a warning until after it had touched down in Windsor. In the words of then town manager Albert Ilg, the tornado came out of the blue. First responders at the scene did not understand what had happened. Some said it was as though a bomb had gone off. The pages come from a scrapbook kept by the Reverend John W. Day, who had been a pastor at First Church in Windsor before setting up his own private pastoral counseling practice in the late 1970s. He was an active member of the emergency response team that provided assistance to Poquonock residents in the aftermath of the storm. His scrapbook is a particularly thorough collection of news clippings about the storm and the community's subsequent response. The path of the tornado generally followed Route 75, touching down first just south of Poquonock Elementary School and traveling north, ending its path of destruction just north of the air traffic control towers at Bradley International Airport. Along the way, it decimated the Colonial Village neighborhood in the vicinity of Pioneer Drive, Hollowbrook Road, and Settler Circle, where many homes were damaged or destroyed. Poquonock Elementary School, St. Joseph Cemetery, Poquonock Community Church, a number of local businesses, the New England Air Museum, and the towers at Bradley International Airport all sustained damage. When the tornado overturned the Windsor Senior Services bus, it was full of seniors. Rick Walsh, the driver, was sucked from the vehicle and sustained a broken arm and crushed vertebrae in his back. He was later hospitalized for these injuries, but not before seeking help for his passengers, all of whom somehow escaped without injury. The bus turning over was the first news that something bad had happened in Poquonock to reach Mayor Warren Johnson and town manager Al Ilg. They had no idea at the time that it was because of a tornado. 139 Windsor residents were injured as a result of the tornado. The day after the storm, the Hartford Courant listed 10 people who were in critical condition as a result of their injuries. Most eventually returned home to their families. Remarkably, given the severity of the tornado, the lack of forewarning, and the fact that many students from Sage Park School and Windsor High School were walking home at the time the tornado struck, only 3 people died. The loss of those 3 people was a source of extreme grief, not only for their families, but all of Connecticut. Here, we honor the memory of those who lost their lives. The only Windsor resident who was killed by the tornado was Carol Domkowski, 42. She is believed to have been napping in her upstairs bedroom at 23 Settler Circle in Poquonock at the time the storm ripped her home apart. In the immediate aftermath of the storm, her family and teams of rescue workers could not locate her, despite their best efforts. At first, rumors suggested she was alive, away from home with a neighbor when the tornado struck. A day later, her body was found, buried beneath a pile of rubble, 110 feet from her home. She left behind a husband, Edmund, and 2 sons, Robert and Tom. Her family remembers her with fondness and treasures items she made, like handmade afghans and other craft items. The grit visible on this image is there because the original slide, from which the print was taken, blew away during the tornado and was later recovered by the family. 2 other men, William Kowalski, 24, and Michael Vendetti, 37, both of Manchester, were working to enlarge and pave the parking lot of Windsor Bank at the time the tornado struck. As rains picked up, they sought shelter in their truck. Unfortunately, as Yankee Magazine reported the incident, an immense piece of timber flew like a javelin into the windshield of the truck, and both men received severe head and neck injuries. Kowalski was pronounced dead upon arrival at Hartford Hospital, and Vendetti succumbed to his injuries a few weeks later, on October 21st. Both men worked for Duford Construction Company of Glastonbury. Kowalski had lived in Glastonbury for many years, having just moved to Manchester a few months prior to his death. Vendetti was a graduate of Conard High School in West Hartford and had been a foreman of H.R. Porras Paving Company for 7 years prior to his work at Duford. Both were husbands and fathers. Rescue efforts began as soon as the storm ended. Rescue workers had difficulty reaching Poquonock because of all the damage and debris, so at first neighbors helped each other as best they could. Crews of firemen, police, National Guard, and medical personnel, as well as heavy construction crews, utility companies, and the Department of Transportation worked to aid victims, secure the community from further hazards such as leaking gas, and begin the Herculean task of cleanup. Thousands of volunteers poured into the area. Some were coordinated by the Red Cross and the Salvation Army, while others were simply concerned citizens of Windsor and surrounding communities who were willing to lend a hand. A group of 20 Mennonites, dedicated to providing service in times of disaster, came from Ontario, Canada, upstate New York, and Pennsylvania, staying for nearly a month to help with the recovery. Some volunteers removed debris, others served meals, still more provided fundraising. Insurance agents and members of the Bar Association offered advice. Ham radio operators provided communication services. The community worked together to see that victims received the information, material goods, and psychological help they needed in order to put their lives back together. The Red Cross praised the town of Windsor's recovery efforts for their efficiency and organization. Recovery involved the coordination of federal, state, and local resources. Connecticut Governor Ella Grasso, who was born in Windsor Locks and attended the Chaffee School in Windsor, took special interest in those affected by the disaster, who widely praised her efforts. Locally, the disaster response and recovery were managed by Town Manager Albert Ilg, Poquonock Fire Chief John Silliman, Mayor Warren Johnson, Manager of Public Works Ted Edson, and the teams they managed. All worked tirelessly to aid victims and rebuild the community in the wake of the tornado. In the immediate aftermath of the storm, emergency personnel were managed from a command post at the fire station. Later, information for affected families was distributed from the Poquonock Information Trailer, which was located in the Poquonock Elementary Schoolyard and was manned by still more volunteers and town staff. Block wardens were stationed in the disaster area to answer questions. Albert Ilgs credits the success of the town's tornado response, in large part, to asking the community what they needed. Many of the ideas and plans that shaped the town's response came from a brainstorming session Ilg led in the firehouse in the wee hours of the morning following the tornado. Many people referenced the importance of the meals served to victims, emergency crews, and volunteers at the fire station. Managed by John Silliman's wife, Debbie, the Poquonock Fire Station's Ladies' Auxiliary, composed of the wives and children of the firemen, served countless meals in the days following the tornado. Local grocery stores and other concerned citizens donated much of the food served. Human chains were used to clear much of the debris since it was difficult for trucks to pass through the area. Each chain had a town worker with a chainsaw at its head, helping to cut the debris into pieces small enough to pass from person to person. Insurance agent Mike Rabbit spent many days on the site of the disaster in Poquonock, helping his neighbors and clients through the aftermath of the storm. He said he didn't see his wife for a month after the tornado because there was so much work to be done on behalf of his clients. Beginning on October 7th, just 4 days after the tragedy, the town began printing the Windsor Phoenix, a newsletter with helpful information that was hand-delivered to the residents. It remained in publication for more than a year. With the final edition printed on October 27, 1980, it offers an overview of the many facets of life included in the recovery effort. The idea for the Windsor Phoenix came from a late-night brainstorming session run by town manager Albert Ilg, who intended to combat rumors and provide accurate information to victims of the tornado. It was important for victims to find some sense of normalcy again as quickly as possible. The federal government provided mobile homes as temporary housing so that those whose homes had been damaged or destroyed could live safely on their own land and monitor the reconstruction of their permanent homes. The community worked hard to bring comfort and joy to the victims. Food, clothing, and psychological counseling were all provided. Students from storm-damaged Poquonock School and congregants from Poquonock Community Church were quickly rehoused so that school and church could resume. The community also offered opportunities for fun and enjoyment to the tornado victims in the form of tickets to plays, free meals in local restaurants, and donated Thanksgiving turkeys and Christmas trees. The community also focused on the importance of regular extracurricular activities like basketball in the lives of students affected by the tornado. Everyone came together to make the process of reconstruction as comfortable and successful as possible. Tom Demkowski appreciated the opportunity for normalcy the trailers provided his family. He said, "It was at least in the yard of our home, and we could watch the progress of the house being built and the yard being rescaped. And with those trailers, we could have kitchen cabinets with our own food, and we could park the car and get to school. It wasn't normal, but it was some sort of normal that gets you past difficult situations." He continued, "With the trailers, it allowed us to basically get back to where we could sit down at a dinner table and we could talk things out." Tom Demkowski remembers, "We were coming up on Christmas time, so when the trailers started being delivered, we celebrated Christmas in the trailer. My dad went out and bought Christmas lights and said, 'Here, you decorate the home every year? Decorate the trailer.' As we came closer to Christmas, there was a Santa Claus and people dressed up in reindeer outfits and snowman outfits, and somebody donated Christmas trees to everyone who was in a trailer so it could be somewhat festive." While reconstructing their home, Edmund Demkowski requested that the chimney, which faces toward the path of the tornado, be designed with lower courses of brickwork on either side of the chimney, so that it would look like a hand with its middle finger raised. It was Edmund's wish that the new chimney give the finger to the tornado that took his wife and made reconstructing the home necessary. The mayor himself wrote this poem and read it aloud at a carol sing held to lift Windsor's spirits before the holidays in the wake of the tornado. It shows the good humor with which the town faced the disaster. These aerial photos show the dramatic transformation of the Settlers Circle area from the nearly total destruction after the storm through cleanup and reconstruction. While the tornado was a horrific event no one would ever want to repeat, many of the survivors spoke with gratitude about the spirit of teamwork and generosity that brought the community together during the recovery and rebuilding process. Within about a year, most of the homes and businesses affected by the tornado had been rebuilt, and Windsor was able to move forward.